All right, let's jump in. So in this video, we're going to talk about cycle overview for our second phase of the Apex cycle. So we just basically wrapped up the first 7 weeks of open prep, and now we're going to basically transition and get ready for what the phase looks like during the open and leading into quarterfinals. So really what I want to get across in this video is talking to those of you that we have two groups right now. We have a group that is preparing to do their best in the open because they're not entirely sure they're going to make quarterfinals, and they are like going all in on trying to make quarterfinals from doing the open workouts. The other group is those that pretty sure they're going to get through. They're not really prioritizing their redos. They're probably going to end up redoing them because they're competitive.
Or some of them.
Yeah. But they're going to continue to train as normal through the open and leading into quarterfinals. So let's dive in with really what it looks like for those that are prioritizing redos. We'll talk about like strength and redos, and I've said redos a bunch. We'll go through what prioritizing those days looks like to make sure that they're setting themselves up for success so that they are okay with basically going through a 3-week-long competition.
Yeah. So we'll talk first about just like the structure of the week for somebody if they redo.
Yep.
Yeah. So workout comes out Thursday. Internally, we evaluate the workout and the structure that we planned, because obviously this cycle, we can't plan everything when there's like this big unknown workout that's going to be the biggest priority focus of the week. So that comes out. Generally, people repeating it will do it either Friday or Saturday. Yep. Friday is probably the best time to do it to give yourself the most recovery. Saturday ends up being a recovery / strategy or skill session based on whatever Friday was. Sunday off, you come in Monday, you hit your reattempt. Hopefully you crush it and do better because you've strategized and planned and done all of that. And then your Tuesday, Wednesday are kind of your only training days of the week.
Yeah.
But we have to do a lot of kind of planning to figure out what makes sense on those days.
It's very dynamic. So we look ahead, we keep a list of movements. All right, what's been tested? What do we know that's probably not going to come back out again? There's been 1 year of the open where we were wrong.
Yeah, there was double burpees.
There's double burpees, right? And we're like, all right, let's scratch that off. And we're like, oh my God, it came back out again. Our systems. Mia does a great job in the skill development path. So if you're in the program or if you're new to the program coming in, you're going to follow that because it's basically an open repeat template. So it's a good opportunity, like Max was saying, hit it Friday, Saturday, strategy redo day where you're practicing, getting ready for your attempt on Monday. Sunday you rest and you get after it Monday. And then like the Tuesday, Wednesday is really going to be an opportunity to kind of touch on the movements that are more likely to come out later in the week.
Yeah. So I think the biggest mistake I've seen from people that are kind of in this is that they try to keep the same training focus as somebody that they might look up to that is going to peak for quarterfinals. And they try to do everything during their training week. Yeah. So they'll do the repeat, and then they're like, well, the normal path is doing training on Monday, so I'm just going to also do that training and Tuesday. And I think people really underestimate over the course of 3 weeks. If you're on the bubble and you're trying to like, hey, your best attempt and repeating everything is in the 76th percentile and underperformance is in the 73rd percentile, from what I've seen, the biggest separation in that is consistency across the weeks and being able to perform really well as it goes. So I think people need to really have their focus on those tests and less worry about what the Tuesday, Wednesday is. It's more like, hey, you're competing right now for 3 weeks, and then you can get back to training after that.
Yeah, I would say be prepared to go in with that mindset because it is very difficult to think like, oh, all my other training's kind of going on hold. But that's the reality.
You just can't do both. You can't compete and then train with an expectation that you're going to get better during that time period. So I think the most important thing that we can say is understanding and being okay with the fact that this is my competition window right now. If you're anywhere on that bubble, which I would say is probably between like 65 and 80%, like if you're somewhere in that range, you don't have any wiggle room to try and push extra out of those 3 weeks. You need to be able to just take a step back. I think it's like 70% of your week is dedicated to that week's open, whether it's thinking about it, strategizing it, doing it, and redoing it. That's your week. And so when we talk about the other days in that week, that Tuesday, Wednesday, those aren't necessarily like training days. Those are getting touches on the movements that we think are coming up next so that they feel as good as possible, but they're mostly like sharpening, like priming days. They're not training days. Yeah. We're not expecting you to walk out of that session and be like, oh, what a good workout.
Yeah. It's like stimulative days. It's honestly, it's just keeping you kind of like peaked and topped off for 3 weeks straight because the mental stresses that come with that. And like week one, everyone's like fine doing a redo. They feel great and they're refreshed. And then it's like after you hit that second redo on Monday, you feel it again coming into the second attempt or the first attempt on week 2. So I think, just be prepared for that.
Yeah. I have one athlete that has done almost every online semifinal qualifier that's come out before the open season started. And there's almost no training in his structure because of that. So there is a precedent for, and Noah back in the day used to compete all the time. And there is something that you can get better at from fully investing in competition. And also remember, it's just really 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Because from the time open workout comes out on Thursday, 1 week from that, the second one comes out. 2 weeks from that, the third one's out. And 4 days from that, the deadline's over. So I think it's like, I can't stress how important enough I think that is, that put your full focus on it and put the rest of the training into like maintenance mode in your head. It's like you want to keep touching things. You want to feel confident in what could come out, but it's much more important to get everything out of yourself on that reattempt that you possibly can if you're trying to get your best score.
Yeah, I love it. All right, let's shift gears. So now we basically talked about those doing the repeat attempts, doing their best.
And that's all done in the skill development path?
Yeah, they'll follow skill development paths. Again, we'll have a template that's set up so that like it's super easy for you to go in and just be like, just tell me what to do. And it's like, this is your goal for the day. Hey, this is a lower volume session today. Like it's intended to help you feel recovered and walk away feeling more refreshed. And then for those that are peaking towards quarterfinals, your plan's a little bit different, right? So we're operating under the assumption that you're going to get through the open cleanly, and we're going to continue pushing training during that time. So, we just finished a wave of strength progressions that kind of peaked at the 7-week mark. We tested a few things, we hit the total, but we're going to continue to build on that high variety of strength in terms of making sure you're kind of topped off and peaked for all those different lifts coming in. So by the end of this next phase, and we'll go into more detail in a second, I would have expected to be confident knowing like where all your 1RMs are, as well as like where your strength battery is on all these different types of tests. All right, so jump in.
Go into it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, what do the total lifts look like? Why are we doing that?
Yeah,
so
for people that were prepping for quarterfinals, when I was writing the strength progressions, I was really writing it as like one prolonged cycle with kind of 2 different peaking points. So the total progressions that we ran, so if you were in the program, every alternating week, we either did the total or the other total. And then on Wednesdays, we did snatches under fatigue. Fridays, we did clean and jerk progressions. And we tried to touch every single possible strength metric that could come out instead of just picking snatch and clean and jerk. We did complexes. So
in a bunch of different formats because the testing body changes all the time.
Yeah. So it's not really easy to just like do a normal progression during this prep time. So for the total progressions, we're just keeping those running and just doing one more peak. So basically we built up to close to maxes, then we'll build again close to maxes, deload, and then it's quarterfinals week. But if you're just doing the strength progressions, you can actually retest those. The snatch work that we did under fatigue is shifting a little bit more towards now like batteries, like doing progressive ladders and things that actually come out more likely in quarterfinals, which I felt like, okay, well, we did 7 weeks of base building to snatch under fatigue. You're going to maintain that as long as we're still doing cycling work. But now the focus shifts more towards feeling like Metcons because it's likely that that's how it's going to be.
Yeah. And then we have this kind of anticipation of that because of the nature of how quarterfinal style tests are set up. You want to kind of talk more detail about that? So basically like why a shift to ladders based on it being such a wide range of athletes they're testing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just historical bias that we've seen in the CrossFit, like official CrossFit season structure, that their preference for testing strength inside of quarterfinals, like there's a chance we might see 1RMs, but I think it's a little bit more likely that you're going to see some sort of progressive ladder that allows more people to play. They're still dealing with 25% of the competitive population, so they don't want to just have half of those people not even be able to do the first workout in quarterfinals. So
like Heavy Isabel was a semifinal workout. But if that was quarterfinals, half the field just couldn't do one rep.
Yeah. So I think, and this is again like just sort of our assumption based off of the biases that we've seen so far, it's a little bit more likely inside of CrossFit quarterfinals compared to another semifinal competition that has their own qualifier. We've seen 1RMs and CrossFit totals come up in those already this year. We want to make sure that, yes, you are ready for that possibility, but more likely than not, we're probably going to see some sort of progressive strength ladder that allows more people to be able to play, but the elites to still be able to separate by the end of it.
Yeah. And if we're wrong and it doesn't go up in progressive weight, the likelihood that the format, whatever it is that comes out, that still probably will make you better. If it ends up being like Randy and it's just high volume, light stuff, like we've been training Metcons, and then the barbell cycling in the progressions will still give you the base you need to perform. Like it's very unlikely that you'll just perfectly have trained whatever comes out. So keep your expectations.
I don't know if you've been following our program and you did like Madrid or the French Throwdown, I feel pretty confident. They did the French Throwdown, did the other total, and Madrid had a max back squat and jerk, and I'm like, and it was like a very short time frame.
Mike's favorite thing in the world when he nails a workout.
I know. Yes, that's awesome. So I guess from the conditioning side, and really just like, Metcons and competitive stresses through the week. So if you're peaking for quarterfinals, we're going to do the open workout, and like you can expect to still have strength progressions later that day or volume, EMOMs, and then Saturday have another quarterfinal style test.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talk about the two different kinds of people, right? The people that need to be able to prioritize open workouts and what they need to compromise during that time. They need to compromise their training progress during that time. You're going to have to take a step back. You're probably not going to get better during the open. For the quarterfinal population, what we're expecting from you is to probably take a little bit of a compromise from maxing out your open score to take as much of a priority on placing quarterfinal prep inside of your week. So what that looks like is we're probably going to push you pretty hard on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before. There's going to be a little bit of a back off on Wednesday just to make sure that you're fresh and ready. But you're going to come in Friday morning, you're going to hit the open workout, and then you can expect another 2 hard workouts over Friday PM and then Saturday, getting you ready for what that demand looks like in quarterfinals. I think when I think about quarterfinals, it's not even just the qualities, it's being ready to hit that frequency of intensity with as much like value as you can. So that's what we're doing with that. And so we know that that's going to wear on people, especially when we get into quarterfinal simulation in week 2 of the open. Be okay with the fact that your open workouts probably aren't going to be as high as possible if you peaked and redid these and did your analysis and all that. But we know that that's not your season. Your season is coming up in a week and a half. So be okay to carry a little extra fatigue. This is your training time. You are still getting better. So be okay with the scores not being what they are.
That's very hard on the ego, and takes a very mature athlete to be okay with that.
I don't think, even if you say it, I still think some people will just do the extra volume on Friday, Saturday, and still come in and repeat it on Monday. But I have had many conversations and fights and swayed people away from doing those repeats, because it really does only serve the ego. Like there could be a little argument made for the fact that like we build extra volume on the weekends, but even if the quarterfinals workouts come out, it's even more volume than 5 workouts over 3 days, because most people are also repeating 1 or 2 also. So there's like a little bit of room for people making those individual choices, but generally speaking, I feel like volume prep for quarterfinals of intense sport specific stuff is like a non-negotiable.
I mean, there's a small percentage of the field too that does kind of use the open when they know they're going to get through. They still kind of use the open as their opportunity to kind of get back in shape. And like I personally have done that in the past. I'm not saying everyone should do this or suggest this, but it's like, hey, I've just been training normal. All right, the open's here. I'm going to use these repeats as like my opportunity to get back in competitive shape. Because it's like kind of lower risk, but it also is like an opportunity for me to really refine, like my pacing and my intensity with these types of workouts. But all right, so I think, like being mature enough as an athlete to accept that as a challenge, but it's going to set you up for success long-term leading into quarterfinals. There was another point that I wanted to talk about with quarters is like, we've also too, something we've done in the past is we've kind of like really stripped back the weekend because we anticipated the open to be like crazy hard. And like some weeks it comes out and it's like 8 minutes of 50-pound dumbbell snatches and burpees. And we're like, oh.
And unloaded walking lunges.
And like, we're like, all right, well, everyone's detraining now, So expect the weekends to still be challenging, but it's a very dynamic process of how we basically handle the weeks of the open. We go in and we make the adjustments on the fly and we get them out very quickly.
I think that that's the biggest thing that we have to be able to bank on is just knowing that when the workouts come out, we are going to make the adjustments. We're going to make the adjustments to movement selection. That's going to happen in the next 3 days, but also if there is intensity or volume changes that need to happen just to make sure that people are staying safe and smart.
Anything else you've seen from like for someone peaking for quarterfinals, mistakes that they've made in the past through the open that basically kind of eats into their training or performance leading into quarterfinals?
I mean, honestly, like we can sit here and say like, don't redo the workout if you don't have to redo the workout. If you know that you're the kind of person that is likely to do it, to want to redo it, just build it into your week. Build it into your week and expect that this is going to happen, because then what's going to happen is you don't have to then play catch up afterwards, making up the Monday session that you missed. If it's already planned, you can make the adjustments to the rest of the schedule to make sure that you're still training the things that need training.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think sometimes, the battle's not worth fighting because it does give them confidence.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't want to talk in circles on that where we were just basically saying,
do
don't ever repeat the workouts if you don't have to. Then it's like, all right, well, if it makes you feel better, do it. But I think for some athletes, you already know ahead of time, and it's like, just build it into your training.
Yeah. Well, that's actually kind of the mistake I see people make. And at this time of the year, I think it's even more important. But I think as an organization, we've always preached like individuality. Even in the training program, there's multiple paths to allow different types of people to safely navigate the season. I think people just need to be like aware that they need to make smart decisions and be mindful about how their mind works in competition, their volume tolerance. Like even in quarterfinals prep, week 2, we're going to do a quarterfinal sim. And generally speaking, that's really helpful for a lot of elite athletes. But if you're a
Describe that real quick if people don't know what you mean.
Okay, so a quarterfinal simulation is us making an educated guess about everything that has been tested in the past and what these quarterfinals are like and, the types of people that are going to be in it, and trying to give you an opportunity to practice doing 4 or 5 competitive workouts back to back to back of different styles. Some that are light and fast, some that are short and powerful. You already will have the open one, so you probably get the breathy high rep one mixed in there. So we give people an opportunity to practice that 2 weeks out. So you're like ready for that amount of volume versus going from just one test at max effort to all of a sudden doing 5 on 2 days. It's just very different.
And I think too that some of the elements that get tested during a weekend like that are the skills are more advanced. So you're just going to deal with more movements that might create bottlenecks under pressure, and you're gonna have to deal with that. Like you're facing the exposure. Like we're gonna write tests where it's like you will get caught and exposed in these tests, and you have to learn to deal with that. Like how are you gonna manage that mentally when it comes up? How are you gonna basically learn to re-strategize based on how the workout looks? But also the stresses of getting ready to film and do your quarterfinal workouts is like 10x relative to the open, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because you're under a very tight time structure. The gym's closed. There's like all these people are, like setting up around you to do this workout. So like just that pressure is just so different. I think you need to basically test run that to like work out all those kinks so that come game day for quarterfinals, it's not the first time you've experienced all those things.
Yeah. So the whole concept of the throwdown was to give people the opportunity for their practice at online qualifiers in the open. The sim is kind of the quarterfinal. And the reason I brought it up is saying there are certain masters athletes who have been competing for 10 years that if they reach out to me on an individual level and say, hey, I'm pretty beat up from the last 9 weeks of training. Do I need to do the sim? Sometimes I'm like, no, I think you're good. Like you did your open stuff, go into the intermediate path and train. And I think that is the most important thing that I think people need to do if they want to navigate the season well. We do it with the program structure and giving people the paths. We're in there in comments. Our individual athletes do that directly with their coaches or in Coach Connect. And I think if you're on your own navigating our program, just be true to yourself. Like, if you're not volume tolerant, don't just do the training to be tough right now. Make smart decisions. If you're somebody that gets a lot of confidence from repeats, but you don't need them, well, do it for confidence and just be confident in your choices. So that would be my kind of biggest mistake, is that people try to mimic what they see. They're like, oh, well, that's what the pro does. I'm going to follow them. And I'm like, but you're not a pro. Don't do that.
I think if you're,
my thought.
Oh, I love that. I think if you're not sure, ask. Like we have tons of outlets to work with coaches and get insight, whether you drop a question in the water cooler or shoot one of the coaches a message, get on Coach Connect, or get with an individual coach. There's a bunch of different options to basically have help navigating through like the season challenges that are presented. So from that, I kind of want to, like wrap a bow on it. I feel like we gave a good insight into what it looks like if you're coming in and you're prioritizing repeating to make quarterfinals. You're going to follow a skill development path. For those that are kind of a shoe-in and you don't need to try and peak for the open, but you want to peak for quarterfinals, you're following masters or the compete path and basically taking advantage of the options of volume that we have throughout the training weeks leading in. And then moving forward from there, like the next steps, once the quarterfinals is concluded, I'm not going to go in massive detail on this, but the next phase will basically split. So we'll have a back off week, and then we lead into one where, let's say you're done, the season's over, you did quarterfinals, you had a great run, but you're just like done with the season, you didn't make the unaffiliate semifinals, or you just honestly just like that's where you're calling it. We go into like more of like a general strength conditioning phase, which is fantastic to go into that time of year. It pulls back from some of the competitive stresses of competing. And then the other side of that is for those that made it, that are moving on to the next stage, or are going into maybe like another peak for an outside competition independent of the game season. We have a competition peak path that we're building as well. So those will run simultaneously.
Yeah. So at that point, cut that out.
I love that you do it louder into the mic.
Sorry. Either it goes way more intense or way less intense, basically. You're either getting ready for semifinal season or all the stuff that comes out in the summer, or we're backing you off and hopefully getting you healthy and strong again.
I mean, maybe they like to hear that it's less intense, but Shittier Sandwich, version 2.0 is coming out hot. So
That's true.
There's no escaping it.
And what about the people who their season ends after the Open? What are they doing during the quarterfinals weeks?
So that good question. Skill development path will basically go into like an earlier off-season development phase. So we'll go back to strength, basic strength progressions, gymnastics progressions, and just general conditioning. So it's just like kind of a bridge phase of getting back to where the whole group will start back up after quarterfinals.
There is also, and I think Mia's done this in past years, there is an argument to be made if you don't qualify for quarterfinals, but you are aspiring to be somebody that will eventually do it, to plan to just do quarterfinals as a non-official person doing it. And sometimes that might mean you have to scale the workouts. Like they come out and it's just too heavy for you to do and you can pull it back or whatever. But there is an argument to be made that you could do it. So those people will jump into the main path and just do quarterfinals as if they qualified.
Yeah.
And then they'll just go into their off season. So you kind of have options. If you really sold out and then you're like, you didn't make it and you're demoralized and you're not going to do quarterfinals, you can just, okay, cool, your season's over, chill. Yeah. Or you're like, all right, I didn't make it, but I'm fired up and now I want to see what I would have done if I did. Then you just do quarterfinals as if you qualified.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I actually push a lot of people to do that. I think obviously in a safe manner, like if it's way beyond what your capabilities are, like don't do anything unsafe or stupid in that sense. But I feel like quarterfinals to me is kind of like the fun part of the qualifier season. There's more advanced movements. There's like GHDs and, muscle up opportunities or handstand walking. And like, there might be some intermediate level athletes that didn't make quarterfinals, but have skills and could test these things and express them. And I think it's just a lot of fun.
They just want to show them off, right?
Yeah.
They want to have fun with it. And I think that's okay. I think probably that kind of person is going to pick and choose what they do that weekend. They're probably not going to do the weekend entirely. No. And I don't think that they should. I think that if there's training that you've done that set you up for things that haven't been tested yet, that's probably going to be tested in quarterfinals. Go have some fun on that weekend, knowing that you built up a foundation to protect yourself from it and also be able to express your fitness.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's honestly what a lot of class members do here, and we encourage that. Like, they just pick and choose the ones they want to do. Are they going to do like the heavy Isabel? They're like, nah, I'm good. But I'll do the burpee toe bar one that was crazy volume from the semifinal last year that they thought was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Cool. You guys have anything else to add?
No, it's almost here.
Yep, I'm excited. I feel like we've had a great peak leading into this. Like all of the open retests and quarterfinal retests that we've done, I'm watching so many people PR. It's been really fun watching them build confidence. There's also been a lot of exposure too, which I'm glad, because I don't want everyone to walk in feeling overconfident, and that just means that they weren't challenged enough. So I think having some failures along the way is like part of setting yourself up for success to have a good season, because you are mentally ready to handle it. So good luck, everyone. If you're joining us, make sure that you take full advantage of all the coaching opportunities, and we're super pumped to have you on board.